It is week 2 of reviewing titles that you guys voted for in my event, and I'm very excited for today's first impression because not only am I reviewing a title you voted for, but I'm also doing a first impression on 2 other titles. Hello friends, happy Friday. So very excited that you're here. If you're wondering like, Laura, what event are you even talking about? Check out this video here. It was capturing my reading review shoujo spree where you guys vote for the series that you want to see me read and review. And last Friday, I did a review on Kageki Shoujo volumes 1 through 7, including the prequel. And I have a new favorite heroine. She was absolutely amazing. So yeah, today, as you saw from the thumbnail, I'm sure of this video, I'll be doing a first impression on 3 different titles, and I'm very excited to talk about all of them. I'm going to share them in the order that I read them, but don't worry, I'll say which one you guys have voted for. So first up is honestly a title I've been personally very excited for. I know I got an anime announcement a few months ago. We haven't gotten any more updates about it, and that is The 100 Times the Charm. She was executed 99 times, so how did she unlock super love mode? This sort of falls under the villainous genre, but it's surprisingly not an isekai, which I thought it was based off of the title. Also, we have the big one, which literally, figuratively and literally, is Mars Volume 1, the 30th Anniversary Edition. Shout out to Gorancha for gifting me this beautiful, truly beautiful edition. Wow, it was very surreal to not only hold this, but read it physically, because the first time I read the Tokyo Pop singles. Best friend had it, and I was reading it at her house, and then eventually she ended up moving, so I never finished it, but I did read it digitally, so it's, yeah, just really surreal to come back and hold it physically, a copy of my own. And then last but not least, the title you guys have voted for was Merit in the Egyptian God. This is a 2-volume series. I decided just to do a first impression because it didn't feel right to me to not do it, especially if it won my event. And I'm very glad that it did because I surprisingly liked it and I didn't think I would, which might sound really bad. But as I said, I'm going to review these in the order that I read them. So we're going to be starting off first with The 100th Times the Charm. This is about our main female lead. I'm going to go by her nickname because I think it's cute, and that is Alfie. As the title says, she has been executed 99 times. Each time it may be a little bit different in the timeline, in the sense of where, I almost said game, because this isn't a game. This is a true, legit fantasy. This is not, again, as I said, isekai. There's no, she's going into an otome game, none of that. Something is happening. I can't tell you due to spoilers, but something is happening because we find out later on. But yeah, something is happening, and she just keeps restarting this time loop. And each time, even if she's sort of starting earlier than she was in the previous life or later than she was, it always ends with her being executed, and it always ends with her seeing this face right here. This saint, who is the one that's actually framing her for her execution. We find out some things which we'll talk about, but because of her, she has died 99 times, and it's always by the way of the guillotine. But this time, on the 100th loop here, she's thinking, okay, this is it. I'm just gonna go ahead and brace myself, because regardless of how many times she has tried to change her death from happening, she has not been successful. And so she sees the prince, he's coming, and she's like, oh, I know what he's about to say. Okay, let's just sort of go ahead and get this over with. And when he's telling her that she is gonna be, I don't think he tells her right away she's gonna be executed. He's telling her more or less, hey, you're about to be investigated for framing the saint, which was not the case. She hears basically like the voice of his heart, the voice in his mind, and it completely contradicts what he is saying. Just think of My Super Cute Black Mage. Very similar scenario in that sense. It's just, you know, that one doesn't have a time loop. And she does not know how to react to this. This is really throwing her off her A game, because she's like, oh my gosh, like what they're saying doesn't match. And especially our prince here, who she is engaged to, he loves her very deeply, but he's very cold when it comes to his words. And it sort of feels like you don't love her, but we definitely see at a later point, yes, he really did care for her. So it's her story on this 100th loop of how things are not different and how she really is trying to avoid her death. And this time we see that she seems, I say that with quotes, to be successful and actually potentially living a happy life. This was such an interesting read, and I know it's about Alfie, who I absolutely loved as a female heroine, but y'all, when I showed you that picture of that saint, listen, I feel I have not maybe read like bukus of manga that have saints where they are the legit villainous, but there was something special about this saint. I ain't gonna lie, when you see her inner monologues and you see how she is, like, look at this. This is her celebrating, thinking, oh, she has framed her, she is successful, talking about Alfie, and she's like, yes, I'm gonna celebrate. I mean, it just completely is very surreal. I mean, she really gets excited. Here's another one. Here's another one. She is totally looking down Alfie, but her face isn't showing this. But since Alfie can, you know, read what's in her heart, what's in her mind, she knows the real deal, because this is how the saint is appearing to her outwardly. But again, she's seen inside of her mind, and it's like, get that saint out. But part of this saint too, and why she is I feel a very interesting character, because, or at least a very interesting villain, is she is able to mind control basically all of these guys, just the guys, and she goes to great lengths. I didn't realize, by the way, that that panel I showed of the saint had some language on there, and I will just give a forewarning, this does have some language, which surprised me. And when it came to Alfie's execution at the beginning, it was surprisingly bloody. I said, oh, this isn't like, we know that there would typically be blood, but we don't see it. No, you see it. You see it. So just as a FYI, I wouldn't say it's like gruesome or graphic throughout the series, but there is some scattering of language. But yeah, so the saint has this really OP ability to control all of these guys, which is interesting when you're seeing sort of behind the scenes of the male lead's perspective, how he's feeling knowing that Alfie is supposedly about to die and how he's the one going to be leading the execution. It's really going against what he's thinking. He's somehow just, and all of the men are this way, not just him, any man under her control, even if inside that they're like, I hate this woman, she's garbage, I don't like her, she's fake, they cannot say anything bad about her or fight against the power of her words. They have to do whatever she asks. They have to give in and have to make her look good. So that creates, honestly, I guess we would say the humor comes in. I'm not sure if this is a romantic comedy, because that ending, it did hurt my heart with the things of how it unfolded, but the comedy aspect was very, very funny. Alfie is an incredible heroine. I admire how she was really true to herself, despite that, like, somebody told her, you know, if you have died that many times, you're probably gonna go insane. You're probably gonna go mad. And Alfie didn't. She would find ways each time to try and change things. I mean, whether that was being angry, whether it was being sad, whether that was just yelling at them, speaking the truth of like, are you dumb? Because who goes about this investigation saying that you're about to die because you were accused of a crime without looking into it? She's got guts, and I enjoyed seeing how she, again, just so true to herself, and when she feels like this loop has been broken, of how she was like, I just want to live a very peaceful life, and what she was willing to do to ensure that that happens. And that does bring me to say too that I do want to get volume 2, despite this one spoiler I saw, and I'm like, that is not something I like seeing. It's a trope I absolutely despise. I really like Alfie, and I like how the world building is, and I just enjoyed myself. But what I was gonna say about that comedy, one of the opening moments here is her doing that on her neck, you know, drawing the line saying cut here. And I'm like, Alfie, I'm like, you have really hung in there and done your best to try and remain happy to the best of your abilities and not get so discouraged and defeated, because I know if I was in her shoes, I would absolutely feel that way. way. But here she is, still doing what she needs to do, and it was very rewarding, I feel, as a reader to find out why this time loop is happening. Because I'm like, if this isn't an isekai the way I originally expected, how did we get here? That's the only time well, no, except for 7th time loop. That one does have a time loop as well, but I don't know if it was explained why Rishi is in that time loop. In this manga, it is explained, and I thought it was very well done, and that was part of the overall thing that really hooked me in seeing how is this going to unfold, because we know there's some greater things that have to happen based off of what our female lead learns. Now, for all the comedy that we had, we surprisingly got a chapter or two from the male lead's perspective. I think it was good because I was not a fan of him at all, and I felt like, girl, ditch the man, go live your best life without him. But I felt very conflicted after we see what he has gone through and how when he meets Alfie and he gets engaged, of how he genuinely feels is the best thing that could happen to him in his life. Now, he's not publicly displaying that. Goodness, even Alfie, he's not showing that through facial emotions, and he doesn't say much. And it feels like what he does say is really negative, honestly, or it's very neutral. So I was very caught off guard of how I sort of at one point caught myself tearing up and was really amazed of seeing he genuinely cared and loved her. And I never thought he did. And even Alfie comments like, I didn't know he actually loved me. Those chapters were so eye-opening, and despite that they were really sad, I did enjoy seeing the flip side to really get to know him. So there's more, I feel like there's more weight onto, does it say on the back? No, it doesn't, so I can't fully go into that, but I felt it gave more weight to Alfie wanting to leave these people to go live a peaceful life. It wasn't just a, screw you, I'm done with you, I'm heading out, and the reader celebrating along her like, yeah, you don't need anybody. And no, she still doesn't need anybody, and given everything she's gone through, that's the number one thing I want for her, is to just be happy and not have to worry about, you know, accidentally dying and the same thing happening all over, and, you know, just not able to really be at rest and at peace. But at the same time, I'm like, there's some people that really cared for her that I think it would be good if there was some like closure there. And that's what's leading me to want to get volume 2. I do have it on pre-order, is seeing where exactly is this story going to go? How is Alfie going to be able to achieve this goal when I think how this story ended, or at least volume 1, excuse me. It's 6 volumes and ongoing for the manga, I believe. I don't feel they are just going to sit back, and I not say that they're going to go find her because there's some complications there, but I feel like something's going to go down, more or less, and I want to know what that something is. And I also want to see how, again, Alfie is going to live out this life that she has not been able to do at any point. She's on her own, it's going to seem like, but for how long? What is going to happen? Because if you look at the manga covers, I think there's a different guy for the first 3 or 4 volumes, and then we see the prince again, and I'm like, does she meet him again? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So overall, this was a very enjoyable read, and also I just have to say, this is published by J Novel Club, and they have some of the best physical quality on the manga market. I love the feel of the manga. I love the pages. They are thick. We also had a colored page at the beginning, and it's just really, really nice. But yeah, what I was trying to say before, I would definitely recommend this if you are looking for a time loop manga. You don't want an isekai. You want some of those villainous vibes, because there is a wonderful panel. I will just leave it here because I know I have it saved, of her saying, I'm a wicked little villainess, I believe is what she says. If you want some of that, I don't really think she's a villainess, but you're not looking for maybe a romance, but you wouldn't mind sort of a reverse harem. I'm not really sure if it's a reverse harem. We've only met one guy, and then we see who will eventually, I think, is going to try and look into what happened to what went down. Sorry, I know it's super vague. I would love have to talk about the ending because it was different than what I expected. But overall, yeah, this was a great read, and I'm so glad that I gave it a try, and eagerly looking forward to what's to come, as well as eventually hearing more news about the anime. Now, I have mentioned this in another video, I'm pretty sure it might have been in that, revealing all of the results from the voting, but for Mars, the 30th anniversary edition, I technically have read Mars. I have a video review. I read it all digitally thanks to Amazon Prime a few years ago after a friend of mine was very adamant that I needed to see how the story ended. But it's been so many years that I felt I could come back and do a first impression and not have the strongest memory. And I feel overall that was really true. But if you're not familiar with this series, it is about our main female lead, Kira. She is in high school. I'm not really sure what grade she's in. I think the second year, first year. No, it has to be a first year because Ray is 16. But yeah, she is sort of considered the gloomy girl. She doesn't talk to anybody, seems to not like boys at all, so keeps to herself, but she loves to draw. She is in the park one day and Ray asks her for directions. She is not happy about this because he's a delinquent, has the bad boy vibes, and really wants to stay away from him because she feels like he's just going to bring trouble to her. But she does a map for him on the back of a paper, but what she didn't realize, it had some art. I don't know if I should show what it is, but it had some really beautiful art and it really spoke to Ray personally, so he ends up seeking her out, but finds out though that they are going to be in the same class together, much to her dismay at first, because again, she's trying to avoid him, but something happens that really brings them together, and he agrees that he will be Kira's model because she's just so drawn by him, no pun intended, of how he's a very attractive young man, and so she wanted him to model for her. He agrees, and it ends up leading to a romance. But the closer that Kira gets to Ray, she starts realizing he has some things from, I guess you would say, from when he was younger that's really affecting him in the now, and he has a very short fuse. So much so that Kira's warned, you need to stay away from him because your life could be in danger. But that doesn't stop, blooming feelings from unfolding, and so begins this story. It, again, was just so surreal to hold this. I know I already said that, and even in my review on Goodreads, I said it twice, but truly, it's surreal. I mean, I had a video last year when this was announced at, I believe at AX, just dedicated to Kodansha for all the announcements, and I remember physically shaking when we got the license announcement for this. Now, saying all of that, and this also being the very first manga I ever read, I feel like I don't have this same very strong attachment to this series and nostalgia that I've seen a lot of other people have for this. That's not to say I didn't like it the first time I read it. That's not even to say I didn't like it the second time or even this time. I did. It was just rereading. I can see, man, I don't know if dark is the right word. I feel like dark, we think of gritty, maybe gritty seinen, things like that, but it's not a happy-go-lucky story. And you can see that these teens have some really dark things from their past, and they have some open, festering wounds, or even if the wound is closed, it's there and it hasn't fully healed. And there are moments, especially with Ray, that was oh my gosh, I'm he is so much more dangerous than I remember. And I understand, I don't fault the one girl, I think her name was Harumi, that warns Kira, you need to stay away from him. But I also understand when someone saves you from a really dark situation, I can relate to Kira a lot. I really loved her character, and as somebody who wasn't in an exact same position she was when Ray rescues her, my husband and I have had conversations of how, due to the verbal abuse that was in my home and having a parental figure who was a drug abuser as well as an alcoholic, it was very hard. And so when he proposed to me, I rushed to get married very quickly, probably before I was ready, in all honesty. And I'm so thankful that we're still married and everything is great and whatnot. I mean, we have ups and downs like anybody else, but I say that I understand from where Kira's coming from, that even if you hear that the person you love is dangerous, they feel less dangerous than other things or other people in your life. And so I don't fault Kira for the decisions that she made in this manga. And even though it's been several years and, I have a better relationship with my family and that parental figure is now sober and everything, reading stories that trigger those memories is it was hard. It was not an easy read at times, especially when you start seeing Rei's anger and even especially near the end. And I do want to mention, thank you Kodansha for having a trigger warning at the beginning of this manga. It is there, and I think it is very 100% accurate. Do not ignore it, okay? That trigger warning there is 100% true, and I would say do not read this if you are feeling down. I did not at the time that I did, and I didn't feel down after I read it, but it was triggering just as much as it was the first 2 times that I read this series. So I just want to insert that there to be aware of that. And I know there's a lot of debate about should trigger warnings be used or not, but I 100% feel that it was definitely needed. So saying all of that though about Kira and Rei and how, you know, Rei seems very dangerous, I ain't gonna lie. I am not gonna deny that my heart was loving the bad boy and good girl trope flourishing. Yes, I was eating it up. Rei drives a motorcycle. I was so excited. He's definitely got that edgy vibe to him. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the whole Playboy thing, but the way he changes when he starts falling for Kira, yes. I love it so much. It's very beautiful, and the kisses were everything. I mean, one of them, I forgot how iconic it is, and while this isn't it, this is a scene that I really liked. I do feel that the romance is very special. It's a series that, yes, that has a lot of dramatics or drama, and there's some dangerousness, but there is something so sweet, I feel like, of when you have these two, I don't want to say these two hurting people, but when you can see the darkness surrounding them, and you can see the hardships surrounding them, to be able to find happiness in one another and genuinely come to just fall in love, it is very sweet. It is very precious, and I really, really love the romance. That did not change. If there was anything that I felt I had, I wouldn't say even vividly, but that I remembered more of, it was that romance. It was that romance. Though I did remember some of the really like happy scenes that happened, like when they held hands at one point, and I was like, that is so cute. They were just right here. Like, this was a really precious moment as well. And so I'm rooting for them so much. It's a really engaging start where you get to know Kira, you get to see why she feels the way she does, and seeing her come out of her shell was very satisfying as well. I didn't realize how much she really begins to talk the closer we got to the end of volume 2, and not just to Rei, but to her classmates. And I thought it very interesting that there is an issue with bullying that happens, and how things unfolded, not only because of Kira's incredible courage, okay? I know she said she was scared and freaking out on the inside, but to say what she did and still outwardly look calm, girl was amazing, because that would not be me. That would not be me. But how things resolved when it came to her and the person that bullied her, I was really blown away. I had no memory of that whatsoever. And so it's like, man, I admire Kira and the courage that she is showing and expressing to those around her. And seeing her smile was so beautiful. It was very precious. I feel like we don't see her smile a lot, especially at times when she's not crying, when she's not teary-eyed, and when you get those happy smiles, it feels like such a special reward for the reader. And it's like, yes, she is happy, and I truly hope that she continues to be. And I enjoyed being back. I'm not sure if I'm going to get volume 2. I would like to for sure keep reading. I don't know after I read this if I could be able to handle coming back to do regular rereads, which I'm at a point in my collection where I need to. The only thing I'm owning are series that I would come back to and reread. I'm hoping that my library gets it, because this is a release I want to support. I agree with several people that say that yes, this has aged well, and I think that's very true. I think the characters are very relatable in different ways. Even if Rei's scary at times, there is, I guess you would say, some hurts and pains are relatable regardless of what age you are. And I really love a quote that I put in my review on Goodreads reads, I think I shared it on Twitter as well, that just because somebody seems overly strong and all-powerful doesn't mean that they don't have weaknesses that you can't see. And I feel like that really captures this first omnibus and what these teens are going through. So if you want something, as I said before, some drama, some danger, some romance, and you want a little bit of delinquent vibes and ride on the motorcycle because that was so cool, I would definitely recommend this. Just also be aware that I don't know if there's a lot of language, but again, Ray has that reputation of sleeping around. People surprised, like, you haven't slept with Kira? Like, are you okay? Is this the real Ray? I'm like, oh my goodness, my man. That was like, oh gosh. But overall, yeah, I really enjoyed being back with these characters. And I will say, I love how this edition was. It was easy to hold. I love seeing the art. It just felt, I don't know if bigger is the right word, but I don't know. It felt really crisp to me. And I enjoyed being able to appreciate the art all over again because there were several panels and several pages that, yes, I just took some time to stop reading and just focus on the beauty of the art because it is very beautiful and it is a very, I think it's a very beautiful story too. It's just, at times, it can be really heavy, so just brace your heart. And then last but not least, I read Merit in the Egyptian God, Volume 1, which I guess I didn't even say, since these are all Volume 1, just old habits there, but I really enjoyed this. Honestly, I was surprised how quickly and how fast I read this. So it's about our main female lead. Her name is Merit, and somehow she has been, what they say, trapped? Yes, trapped in the underworld. She is facing judgment of what will happen to her after, you know, she has been judged and would be dead, honestly. But that's the thing, she's not. She's very much alive, and she has to go to this god here, Anubis, and find a way to get back to her home. But he's been cursed. Also, I forgot to say, happens to be the only one who knows how for her to get back, but because he's been cursed due to humans and whatever has happened, he's not very eager at all to help her, but she is determined to get back and determined for him to help her. And along the way, you can see a very slow blooming romance. It was very cute, very cute. But honestly, what I loved about this manga the most was Merit. I loved her as our heroine here. She is so spunky, and I just admired how she did not give up at any point. I mean, there were so many times, in my opinion, especially when she has the chance to view her family through like this pool, I guess you would say, she watches them and she conveys her feelings of like, you know, they have grieved for me, but they're starting, you know, to get back to work and return to normal life. And she was not discouraged by that. She was, I guess, I wouldn't say glad because she deeply misses her family, but it was like she was just able to acknowledge that they needed to not necessarily move on, but they needed to get back to work. They needed to get back to normal. I just was like, girl, how are you not depressed about that? How are you not depressed too? The Anubis, every time you try and find answers, he is like, no, I'm just gonna laze about here and that's all I'm gonna do. And again, when she finds out information of like, again, that he knows is the only one who knows how to get her back home, she's like, okay, I don't know what I need to do, but I do know I need to get him to help me. And she starts working out every day. And I'm like, girl, you're so cool that you are doing this. And because she loves her family so much, it was very fascinating to see how she is touching these different characters and these different individuals in this underworld. Because I'll be the first to admit, I'm not a big fan of Egyptian mythology. I am familiar with it, but that was part of why I didn't rush to pick up this volume because I didn't really know how I would feel about the different Egyptian gods and whatnot. But the world building was very interesting in the sense of there's not this special or important emphasis on family and bonding and being together in the underworld the same way Merit has grown up and how she values that time. I was very surprised that near the end of this volume, I caught myself getting really emotional because she's saying, hey, don't forget how special your time is with another certain character. Like, you need to treasure this time. It's special. And she's like, maybe because you guys have just been here for so long that you have forgotten that. And I'm like, wow. I really like the, I guess, the contrast between how Anubis thinks, pushing humans away, pushing everybody around him away, to Merit, who I would feel has the right to push everybody away from being upset that she's been taken to the underworld away from her family, but yet she is still saying, hey, even in my opinion, she doesn't say it, but that even if she was hurting, she's still encouraging other people to bond together. Really spoke so much of her character and genuinely loved her so much. It was was wonderful. She made this volume, excuse me, a breeze to read through. I mean, not that I thought it would be a drag. I don't mean that. It's just considering that I'm not a big fan of Egyptian mythology, I thought I would struggle a little bit, but no, I finished reading it so quickly. I didn't time myself or anything like that, but I was like, oh, I'm done already and I'm not ready to be done. I want the second volume. So I guess I'll be getting the second volume. The other thing I really enjoyed is the banter between these two. They are so much fun. I feel bad saying that because, you know, Merritt needs him to be on board and help him, but he gives her such a hard time. And then her witty comebacks, they're just good, y'all. Like the scene right here where she's saying, no, you're not going to get away from me. I really like those moments and it continues for the whole volume. I mean, we do have some really special moments, don't get me wrong. Like this is a really cute one when they're holding hands, and I did love Anubis as a character as well because there are definitely a few moments, despite him saying, I don't care what happens to you, Merritt, I don't care what you do, he comes and he rescues her and he keeps her away from other people who are dangerous. And I'll be honest, I indeed fell for a character who had a really pretty face, more so though, he had such a great personality. He was cheery, he was upbeat. Y'all, this is why I can't be in situations like Merritt, because I'll be the first one to fall. The reader be looking like, oh yeah, she should have known that dude was bad news. And here I am falling for it. And Merritt, I mean, maybe a little bit she knows warnings are going off. She's like, this is a suspicious figure, which I like that panel a lot. She though tried to give them, I think, the benefit right here. I've encountered a suspicious character and she was ready. And so I enjoyed that she had a good head on her shoulders. And not saying I don't, but I know me. And so I'm like, girl, thank you for at least being aware that this character was a little bit more sus than I first thought, because I'm like, oh no, they're so smiley and they seem so caring. And then, yeah, things happen and it caused some problems, but led to a little bit greater world building, if that's the right word here. I really enjoyed the entire cast of characters. I love seeing everybody. I hope that the characters we've just seen but haven't really met, I hope we do in the next and final volume. It would be very interesting to see if this series had been longer, where things would go, because again, I found everything really, really interesting and very much excited for the romance because there hasn't been much acknowledgement. I feel that something happened, and this creator also, she's written and we're having published by Yen Press. Sinful is the Angel Who Loves, I think is the name of that manga. I'm very excited for that. The art is just so beautiful in that, and the art's really nice in this, but I will say just the way that she draws faces and the amount of eyelashes that she has, like, I don't know if you can tell here, she makes everybody look so beautiful or so handsome. And I'm like, man, it's really easy just to read when it comes to the art alone. I mean, granted, I am reading the words, don't get me wrong, but even our sweet girl Merritt, yes, everybody was just really pretty at the end of the day. Everybody was really pretty. So the story though, I really enjoyed. I thought it was engaging and was just very surprised how much I liked it. I mean, honestly, I feel like this would be my favorite of the three. I feel like maybe if I hadn't seen that spoiler for the 100 Times the Charm, I think maybe that one would have been. But since I'm a little bit unsure about what to do about later volumes and might do a little bit more research, I would easily say that this was my favorite read of the three, because I don't know if it's just because I thought I would not super like it and then read it. I'm like, yeah, I understand the hype for it and why everybody said, yeah, it's a fun time. And that's exactly what it is. If you enjoy Egyptian mythology or you don't mind it and you like spunky heroines and some really good banter between the leads, I would definitely recommend this one as well. I already wrote volume 2 on my spreadsheet. I think I already said I had somewhere, but I hadn't officially done it. But yes, after this one, I wrote it on there because I want to know how it ends. And I'm not quite ready to say goodbye to these characters and just their stories. So as you can see, overall, I really enjoyed everything and recommending everything. So hopefully I did all of these series justice. I really appreciate everybody who voted for Merritt. I'm very happy that I gave it a try, as well as coming back to Mars and finally trying 100 Times the Charm. It was a great 3 volume ones here, but I would love to hear from you. Which of these sounded most interesting to you? Have you read any of these? I would love to know. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!